There we are, and we are live. Hello, Adele Johnston. We are talking to you today, menopause coach, nutrition coach, saver of the world as we know it at this particular moment. And we are talking today about positive psychology. And I was just actually, while we were waiting, when I was talking to you the other day, we were talking about a program I did, and I was thinking about it yesterday, how many years ago it was. It was on Martin Seligman's book, The Optimistic Child,
Yeah.
and it involved me having to film I didn't know very many children back then. My son probably would have been about 2, and my nephew, who was around about 5 or 6, racing around in the backyard in Teletubby suits. And so it was very, very cute. That was a sort of the program had a sort of like a 7 to 8 minute sort of scene setting story before it, and then the live interview with Martin Seligman. And it was a hugely popular program. Actually, it was very popular. So yes, you are now taking his philosophies that have been sort of developed since then and applying it to women who you see. And in doing that, basically, what is the difference between positive psychology and other forms of psychology?
It's a really good question. So maybe if we look at what positive psychology is, it will really help, because I think we all can become very familiar if we've ever had any type of therapy or psychology-based support. We kind of associate that with maybe cognitive behavioral therapy. We maybe look at that with kind of coping therapies that are very reactive to situations. With positive psychology, what we look at here, and you're completely right, we were chatting around Professor Martin Seligman, who really came up with, being already a psychologist, came up with the whole idea of, well, hold on a minute, when we are feeling a lot more happier in life, we have less sickness and illness, we have less mental and cognitive decline within how we feel in ourselves when we connect with our truth. So the story behind all of this is a really powerful one. But what he started to do was more work around, well, how can we actually help people to be happier? And that is where, when we look at positive psychology, it's more in the proactive measures of then how we live in our life when we show up with positive emotions, when we show up with this kind of empowerment of how we then run our life, really, and how our relationships with others come about, how we have meaning and purpose in life. And then there was these amazing interventions that we have that we can work through. So things like daily gratitudes are one.
Before we get to those, he's got 5 pillars, really, and you sort of lightly touched on them. And I think there's
Yeah.
Perma. So what does that actually involve?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring it up on my screen, on this other screen here then, so that we can talk through them in greater detail. But Perma is basically this well-being model. And the model that Martin Seligman and his other groups had then really worked through. And it has been reworked a little bit. Some people like to, I think we all do, don't we? We like to add some bits onto there. So there's a Perma with an H on the end of it and a Perma without. And ultimately what it's looking to do is really understand the pillars. So we've got positive emotion, which we've talked about as one of them. And within positive emotion, it is about connecting with ourselves, really understanding that within our emotions, how do I feel? Yeah, and that's a really important question. How do I feel right now? And we're allowed to feel unsure. Yeah, it's not always about having to put a false positivity spin on everything. It's about, well, actually, I feel quite sad right now. But then we know what we can do to support in those moments. Yeah, so that's a huge one. Engagement then is our second one. So within engagement, this is huge as well. It's about those connections. And this is where, if you've ever been involved or studied psychology, you'd be very familiar with Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. But at the baseline of those, it's about what human beings need to thrive, not just survive in life. And one of those, which we also can see in the pyramid of the Mediterranean style of living, is about social connection. So within our engagement, we want to make sure that we've got those social connections. So those are the P and the E of the Perma. When we go into R, it's all about those relationships. So again, a huge one. And something that I find that I talk a lot about and support a lot of my clients with, the relationship with themselves. It's a big one. But also with others, whether that's a partner from a kind of loving and intimate relationship, or whether that's with children, parents, friends. So relationships is a huge one.
Which, of course, are massively impacted on during menopause and other areas of huge hormonal transformation.
Yes, massively. And as people, as we evolve and we change, and I use the word people because again, with this whole menopause piece, as understanding that everyone becomes impacted at some point. And it's not just, in the physical form, but also that emotional and mental journey that we take. So understanding positive psychology through the Perma model helps us to really understand then the pillars of maybe where someone's maybe a bit more fragile or fractured and needing more support. And relationships is one of those. Yeah, we can all of a sudden develop this unwantingness to talk more, wanting to show up and actually be communicative with one another. We can think, well, I can't be bothered. I'm so tired. I don't want to talk to you. And that can then manifest itself in ways of, well, that person's being distant with me now, or what have I done that that person doesn't want to talk? So just even having that, how was your day today? At the end of a day, yeah? It's massive. So relationships is the third part to this. And then we've got the M, which is the meaning. So it's quite a deep one, this, but the meaning in, and not so much the meaning of life, but the meaning of us, our life, our purpose. And when we're connected with who we are, what we're doing, are we enjoying our purpose in life? Are we living to our happiest, joyful vision?
Have we even found our purpose in life?
Yeah, right. And sometimes, I think people think of this whole piece of I've got to find my meaning and purpose in life as being this all-encompassing, life-altering change. I've got to develop a cure for insert disease or problem. And it can be as simple as I am my happiest. I'm living my most fulfilled life because I have everything I need. Yeah, and that can be something different for everyone. So it's not about having to aspire to be up there with millions in the bank and traveling to a different country every month. If that's not what your purpose in life is to be, sometimes it's I just need to be there for people. I know I have a calling for that. So yes, finding that kind of meaning and purpose in our life. So PERM, and then A, accomplishment. This is a big one. If we think about, again, Maslow's hierarchy and that triangle, we've got self-actualization at the top of it. And the whole purpose of this is that we need to be able to feel safe and love. Yeah, we need to be loved, but we need to be able to love. And really coming into accomplishment within the Perma model is about how do we feel fulfilled? It could just literally be, you're going to laugh at this, but I feel fulfilled whenever I open we have a cupboard that stores all the girls' water bottles and the protein shakers are in there. And if we open it and they all start falling out on me, I'm like, right, no, I need to deal with this. All the old ones need to get rid of them, or we need to have a better system on how they're stacked in there so they don't fall out. So a sense of accomplishment to that degree, or the sense of accomplishment to you've developed or designed something that is changing lives. Yeah, they're both equal.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be that you've discovered the cure for cancer and have solved millions of lives. It can just be something very, very simple in your day-to-day life that actually gives you that moment of joy. In going sort of back before all of those sorts of things, we tend to, our lives are full of social media. They're full of, television programs and movies and things like that give us this incredible aspirational view of what life should be like.
Yeah.
How do we then actually take away from that and go, well, I'm not 6 foot tall and as skinny as a stick, and I don't drive a Maserati, and I haven't got a huge house, and I don't holiday in Monaco every summer. How do we make this real about us so we don't feel that actually, oh Christ, well, I must be a complete failure then?
Yeah, it's so poignant as well, isn't it? Around social media will always give that kind of image of perfectionism and having it all. And of course, people don't traditionally tend to show up in social media crying or being quite truthful and open around, this has happened and it's not feeling great. It's quite negative. But what we need to be able to do with this, and where we really find the strength and how we move forward with it, is understanding that this PERMA model as well is part of our journey. So where we get to really feel that sense of empowerment for ourselves, where we get to really find that positive emotion connection, understanding our meaning for ourselves, that's where we need to take the journey inside. We need to appreciate and understand, well, what is our relationship with ourselves right now? Before I can give to others, it's about what do I need to receive? And we're allowed to receive. And what we find in specifically, and I tend to find with all the ladies I support, is that they're not sure how to receive. They've spent decades of giving, whether that be through children, whether that be through the workplace, but receiving back in and understanding who we are at the core and in our kind of heart center is really important.
Yeah, that's an issue because a lot of people like me, I find it very hard to take. And I know that sounds like I'm just such an amazing person, doesn't it? But it's true. I find it really hard to actually accept something from somebody. But when you do, like, I mean, you helped me the other day with a problem, and I felt so much better after that. I mean, normally I don't ask for anything, but having done that, and you gave me your advice, and it actually made me feel an awful lot better afterwards. And I hope that didn't detract from you. So I mean, you feel kind of guilty if you're a taker, though, don't you? How do you get rid of that guilt?
Oh, guilt and shame and judgment and self-loathing and all these things will come up. We can't stop them. The whole purpose of this is not to live in a big shiny ball of my life is amazing every single day. We have moments. I have moments, and yet I practice positive psychology every single day. I still have moments where I fall into guilt and I think, whoa, I'm judging myself. But where we need to appreciate with this is understanding that where we are not able to receive and we find it difficult to do that, difficult to ask for help, we're inevitably, slowly but surely over the time, and that time might be hours, it might be decades. It's all different to everybody individually. We can lose track then of who we are. Okay, so if we're continuing to just say yes and take things on for others, but we don't feel that we can ask for help and even just offloading to someone, and never apologizing for that, and just being able to say, I really need support right now, without the shame or the guilt that's attaching those labels. It's the one word that I use a lot with my ladies is about trusting. So trust that you need to surrender. It's probably two words there, trust and surrender. And just appreciate that you can surrender and trust into, and here's probably some practices that can help, not just always needing to do that with another human being. You've got the ability to then do so through writing. And we know that when we put pen to paper, and I'm so traditional with this, it has to be, that kind of pen and paper rather than technology, but appreciating that when we put pen to paper, we unlock that unconscious mind. Not the subconscious, that's part of it, but the unconscious mindset, that when we start to journal, and if anybody has, new to the journal concept, remembering when you were younger and had the Dear Diary with the padlock on it, this is what we get to do.
See, this is an interesting one. I mean, despite the fact that I spent my entire life writing, if and when I had a diary, it was about what happened. It wasn't about how it made me ever feel. I've never journaled anything like that. And I think that's another bridge to cross, really, isn't it? If you're somebody like me, it's all about the facts. This is what happened. This is what happened. And this is who said to what. And nothing about the actual sort of emotional side of it. So it's probably quite a difficult transition for a lot of people to actually cross that.
Yeah, very. But you've started it, right? Everybody knows how to journal. We just haven't ever attached that title to it. So some people that I work with are very audible journalers. They like the audio of it to be able to record voice notes. And once they've recorded those voice notes, they'll just delete them. It's about being able to just be free to release. And it's in the If you hold a lot of shame or guilt around, I can't take other people's energy or time, it's a beautiful way to offload by recording yourself whilst you're doing it. If you are someone who enjoys writing, then make it a bit of a ritual for yourself. You know, spending time in a space or a place that brings you safety and comfort and happiness. So it might be inside your home, or it might be in your favorite coffee shop. And just being surrounded by the noise or the smells, again, we use our senses for this. It's another psychology tool that you are using your touch for writing, okay, and your sight for concentrating on writing that. But the subconscious mind is then picking up, well, what am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I hearing? So you're very, very present then within the current moment. And that's basically what meditation is. Meditation is being present in the here and now. So yeah.
So if Jennifer from America has just jumped on and has put a message here saying she's has a friend and they take turns doing audio notes to each other to offload with no judgment. Yeah, that's quite nice actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
I noticed there have been a couple of questions that have come through on the Instagram, and I have to turn around this way to actually see them. So I can't see them there, but I did see one, and it was about antidepressants and menopause, and that's sort of a bit out of our remit today. But HRT can help some people with mood. Some people find they need antidepressants. Some people find they need both. Just very quickly going back to that question that was there. Sorry to diverge away there. All right, so we're journaling away. We've decided that a Hollywood lifestyle isn't realistic. We've got other sorts of areas there, you know, a good life as well they talk about, and and looking at the strengths and your sense of engagement and things like that in life. How do you work out if you have a good life?
Oh, this is amazing. Such a good question, because we do tend to focus on what we don't have. Okay, and we are all, as human beings, we will always strive. Yeah, and it's that whole piece of, if I just get, I will be happy. And the phrase that I use a lot within this space is, I'll be happy when. Okay, I'll be happy when I achieve the next level of income. I'll be happy when I've paid my mortgage off. I'll be happy when I have my dream car, or when I have that person in my life, or I've got married. But actually what we forget to do is be present then, back in that moment. Yeah, with the here and now. So what we will tend to do is the mind space. We will either live in the emotional past. Okay, so we're back in this emotions of, oh, but when that happened, it didn't feel nice. So I don't want to be there again. Or we will jump forwards into our catastrophizing future. And the brain's primary role is safety. The brain's primary role is to assess risk and to keep us alive. So it's assessing, always assessing. But we need to learn to be able to be present in this moment. So it's about celebrating. And this is where we can show up and do gratitudes. So there's a few practices here that we tend to use a lot inside our coaching world. And one of them is called the 3 good things. And again, this is a positive psychology practice. Super simple. And I'm more than happy to share a free journal download for anyone that wants it, if they just want to reach out to either yourself or myself, whichever is easiest. And then I can share that link with you as well. But what it does is it encourages us to really focus on 3 things in that day that we are feeling deeply blessed and gratitude towards. And it might just be as simple as, you know, my favorite coffee cup was washed and ready for me this morning. I didn't have to wash it, so I'm grateful it was ready to just pull out the cupboard. I'm grateful that it's a sunny day and I get to look outside my window right now and see blue skies. Yeah, it doesn't have to be something like world peace and solving problems. It can literally be material things or experience things. I'm grateful I had tea and scones with my granny. Yeah, so it gives us the moment of, what are 3 things in that day? And it starts off with, today I am grateful for ... And you just need to think then, what are 3 things I'm grateful for?
And there is actually some science behind this, isn't there? I mean, you know, we often think of these sort of, you know, if you're a generally sort of cynical and grounded person such as I am, you know, when people say, you know, I've done my positive affirmations for today and I'm grateful for 3 things, I'm just sort of looking at them going, okay, great, whatever. But there is actually some work that has shown that this can make you a happier person.
Lots of science behind all of this, yes. And when we think about, again, that whole concept of emotional past or catastrophizing future brain, we will more so live in there. We will less so live now in this moment. Okay, and I think what we get to be able to do with that is use the practices such as gratitude, or even practices such as a mindful moment of just taking a breath and thinking, ooh, how do I feel right now? Yeah, am I quite relaxed? Am I quite stressed? And actually, in those moments, yes, the happiness element of this is, if we think about how the body works and the endocrine connection, the system within our body, we are an amazing model, you know, on how we've been as a human being, how we've been designed from head to toe. And within the endocrine system, three core elements of that are inside the brain. Yeah, the remainder of it is down through different stages of the body to the ovaries. But what happens there then with inside the brain is we release all these amazing connections and synapse roots in the brain to support the body. Happiness is something where we all have it. We're born with it. It's our birthright to have. But sometimes we just forget how to open that box and release it. Okay, so having mindful moments can really help you. What am I grateful for right now? Releases this little surge of happiness, serotonin. We can also have a release of GABA, which is very calming. And we've also got then more chemical reactions in the body where we might then think back, and when we're doing our three good things, release some oxytocin, which is our love hormone, which then helps us feel safe and connected. So it's not woo-woo, it's science. And actually, when we live a happier life, the cells on our body do not age as quick.
That'd be true. In the other big one in that was is the, we touched on it a little bit earlier, the finding a purpose in life. Now, one of the things that it actually, when I was doing a little bit of research for this earlier today, it was show that people who experience stress, worry, and anxiety in life often do actually have very meaningful lives. But how do you get that sort of balance between the meaningfulness and the stress, especially because, you know, these days we've got so much to worry about. I mean, I got my electricity bill yesterday. It's £800 above what I was expecting it to be. So we've had constant daily stresses that we have to sort of get through. But how can a meaning in life help us, and how do we find it?
Yeah, so good. And I think it does come back to what we said at the start, where let's remove any judgment or pressure from this. And meaning in life for everyone can be something entirely different. There are a really, and you can Google this as well, so it's, you know, you can do this for free, but there is the wheel of life, okay, that you can go in and you can put a scoring against some key areas of your life, and a 1 to 10 scoring. Okay, you can print it out or you can do it online. But ultimately, what it's asking you is, where do you rate each of these areas in your life just now? And it will be everything from finances to relationships to how you deem yourself in terms of your career success or business success. And then what we tend to encourage that we do from this is understand, well, where do we feel that we've got the connection, the happiness, and the purpose in life? Because purpose isn't just about I'm successful in my career. Purpose can also be about I have a burning, yearning need to travel this world and become embedded and embodied in different cultures. Yeah. So for understanding who you are is so important first and foremost.
Yeah.
And seeing those areas of life.
And even, you know, quite simple things like, you know, my purpose is to have I take a huge amount of enjoyment in my garden, and it gives me a purpose. So it doesn't really, we tend to sort of, you know, really belittle ourselves if we're not changing the world. And this is actually, Jennifer's just mentioned seasonal sadness here, but just a lot of the things that you were talking about there is, these would change over time too, wouldn't they? I mean, because our financial status changes, our careers can change. So I guess you can't expect your meaning in life to always just be that one thing. It will be.
It will change, yeah. And you know, as we mature and as we start to find a little bit more of that meaning and a little bit more of that purpose, we might actually start to go deeper into. So you and I were discussing this as well, because I do a lot of inner work. So I do lots of breath work and I journal and I practice a lot of kind of that spirituality side. And the difference between me, even 5 years prior to when I started on that journey, to the belief that we have in ourselves, that is massive. Confidence is a huge element to finding your meaning and purpose. Yeah, and we lose a lot of that confidence, especially in the menopause transition in the space. That when those hormones start to drop, estrogen, estradiol in particular, progesterone being very calming, we can, and testosterone being a huge element to that, we obviously start to experience a change in how we feel and how we are showing up. So again, this can all have an impact.
Absolutely, that imposter syndrome comes sneaking
Yeah.
in, and you feel, I'm not worthy.
Yeah, or I can't do this, or how the hell do I know what I'm meant to be doing with my life? And yeah, we can start to find ourselves really having moments where we question it. But the whole purpose of this is actually appreciating that there's another practice called best possible self. So again, we do a lot of visualization, and it's about how you vision yourself. Yeah, if we could take any of the judgment away, any of the, oh, I might not be able to do that parameters, we then ask ourselves, well, what does my best possible life look like? And we start to design that out to appreciate we might already be living it, and we've just not been eyes open, present moment to appreciate it.
And I guess if you think, okay, I've come to this because I'm feeling that my life isn't great, and then you suddenly think, oh my God, this is my best possible life, that should actually probably be embraced rather than going, oh my God, this is this all? Shouldn't it? Because I mean, it might actually really be very good.
Yes, and it's taken away the judgment. Yeah, I work with a lot of women. Some of them are business women, some of them career women, some of them have this beautiful life of like complete retirement from any type of requirement to work. And it's about then, well, what do you feel is your purpose pathway? Yeah, it might actually be that you want to be in your garden throughout spring, summer, and then over winter time, it's more about, well, I really enjoy creating. I like getting arty. Yeah, and it's about, well, how do we get that alive inside your soul and your system? That's your purpose pathway. And you don't know then what you can attract through the law of attraction. There might be an opportunity comes your way the more you express your truth. Yeah, so if you are very much called into the arts and the crafts, and you might be a singer, you might be whatever really. And this is the question I ask all of my ladies at the start: what brings you joy? Yeah, what brings you joy? What brings you happiness? And we get you doing more of that. That's how you connect with you again.
Yeah, and they might really just be very, very simple things.
Yeah, they normally always are, and it's the simplest ones that are the most effective.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Jennifer's asking, what about seasonal sadness? She noticed her mood gets worse in winter. Don't we all? Those long grey skies. Can any of this help with seasonal sadness, apart from sitting in front of a light box, which could help? But can this help with seasonal problems?
Yes, absolutely. So in short, yes. Obviously, SAD or seasonal sadness disorder is very much it is seasonal. Obviously, as we start to come in more to the darker months, it can be, depending on where you are in this beautiful world, it can also be cold. It can be quite miserable for a lot of people over that time. But what actually then we look at, so as the nutritionist comes into this, we're not getting as much vitamin D. So again, that's super important for all of the things in the body, but our immunity support and our ability to cope. So one thing I would always suggest is understanding where your vitamin D levels are. You can do that through some blood works and then appreciate whether you need to supplement. UK-based people, we normally always need to because we've not got enough of that sun. But this type of work that you can do, it's very much mind pillar work, by being able to start your day with, what am I grateful for right now? For me, this became a daily habit after reminding myself to do it each day. But as soon as I'm waking up and my eyes are open, I just subconsciously will remind myself and say, I'm so grateful that my eyes have opened for another day and I'm pain and ailment free. Because a big value in my life is my health. And, we've all had moments where that hasn't been its best self, and it can be quite scary.
Yes, absolutely. And I've got to admit, I don't do that. I think the first thing I think is, what have I got to do today? What messages have I got? How many emails have come in? And literally, it's all about, really not healthy.
Yeah.
The other thing, okay, so we're talking about in ways, people think, well, if I've got to be a happy person, I've got to be optimistic and I've got to have, these types of attributes. Can do we have to be an optimistic person? Are these traits that we can learn, or are these the things that you're sort of talking about here just enough to give you that little sort of, you know what, things are actually all right? Is that enough?
I mean, I think when we look at the words like being an optimist or a pessimist and putting it into those kind of categories, you get to show up and you get to change. Yeah, I was always very cynical with things like this. So I am one of those people that used to look at people who would breath work or meditate or do any of this practice work and think, very woo-woo, don't know why they're doing that, can't understand it, can't change your life, why are you doing it? And then I just trusted and surrendered to trying it and actually taking on one thing at a time. Started with gratitudes and then started with affirmations. That law of attraction, it's like a magnet pull, has like, oh, this actually works. There's something in this. So I dedicated a lot of my time to studying it and researching it. And within that space, it's amazing that if you just allow yourself to try it, there's no risk to this. You don't have to go and spend money to try it. You can literally wake up each morning and think, okay, I'm going to try this thing that Adele and Fiona were chatting about and start my day with a gratitude. It's as simple as that. And just being really, really alert to it. It's actually phenomenal what happens when we can pay forward a lot of energy. And that can be in a simple form of a stranger in the street. And in your mind, you think, I love her shoes. Okay, rather than keep it in, you just say, I'm really sorry to stop you, but your shoes are amazing. I just had to tell you.
Yeah.
You're going to light her up. You're going to light you up because you've shared that energy release. And the more you do this, the more you start to notice the vibrancy and the positivity. So to answer the question, we always get the choice to be able to think, I'm going to try this. I'm going to trust it. And I'm just going to surrender and try it and see what happens. Because happiness, again, like I've said, is something we all have. We just live in such a fast-paced lifestyle. For a lot of people, they don't get the chance to be themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I started at university, I had absolutely no idea about what it was I was going to do in my life. So literally, I went through pretty much every single department until I emerged with a degree that had a hybrid of God only knows what else, anatomy, physiology, and English. But in that first year, I did a bit of psychology and I also did philosophy. And when we're talking about this, so you will feel better if you give to somebody, like exactly what you said. If you doing a kind deed makes you feel better inside, but then the Kantian side comes in and thinks, well, if you did that good deed and you were expecting to get a reward out of it, then is it really an act of goodwill?
Oh, well, this is it.
You
Yeah.
tie yourself in circles in this one.
Yeah. So again, it's surrendering to say, if you get the opportunity to hold the door open for someone, you're not going to stand there and think, right, oh, I can see them all the way at the other ends of the car park. I'm just going to hold the door. These types of things. It's just the little acts or the little deeds that you can do, but it is fully releasing the expectation of return. But it's amazing then how that law of attraction, the energy zones work. So it's not so much, I'm not here to tell people, you need to go deep into meditation practices. What positive psychology is about is taking this proactive responsibility for happiness, and that we get to think, well, I can say yes and I can say no. I can give and I can receive. And about being able to show up in what feels good for you. Because if we don't show up for us,
there was one of the other things in that giving thing is that if you feel good about that, then a very simple thing you can do is join a volunteer group or something along those lines that can actually sort of make you feel give you a sense of purpose and give you that sort of positivity
purpose, accomplishment, all the parts of the Perma model, where it's really understanding that you've got these positive emotions that we get to experience. And through those positive emotions, it's not selfish for us to say, well, I know that if I support, so if I show up within a volunteer committee group and I give an hour of my time once a week, that makes me feel good. That's not a negative that you've done that. It's part of your positive emotions, your meaning and purpose, your relationship connection, your accomplishment. And the H that some people will add on to the end of the Perma model is for health. Again, without our health, we don't have any of it.
Yes, and we will be discussing that tomorrow when we talk about the government's decisions about menopause leave and various other bits and pieces.
Yeah,
One other thing that when I was reading about this a little bit earlier was flow. And when I mention flow, I don't mean like going with the flow,
yeah.
but this is also an important part of it. And I think they describe it as being immersed in an activity and how that immersion can give you a sense of happiness. What does that actually mean?
So being immersed or having that sense of happiness through being immersed in something is being present. So what we can forget, and it's very difficult actually to be fully present with something. It takes a lot of practice. That's why this is called meditation practice or breathwork practice. Okay, even those that have done that for decades still have to practice the art, but about being able to be present. So when we are involved in ourselves in a task or something that feels good for us, let's just take journaling as an example, we can tend to disappear into, well, what do I need to do next? What's my next task? As we're trying to be present in that particular moment. Even if we're saying our gratitudes, we might be thinking, what's my next meeting? Do I need to do something for that? So it's about being able to, again, surrender into that flow and moment of engagement of I'm present here for the next few moments. Any thoughts that come into my mind, they're welcome to just float away on a cloud. And sometimes that visual of, I will guide a lot of my breath work practices through this. If I notice the breather is becoming unlocked from the surrender of the breath, this is where we can then interject a little bit and say, any thoughts in your mind space are welcome. So we are not judging ourselves for having those thoughts, but they are also welcome to now leave on a cloud and come back later. Yeah, because
Yeah.
well, if we try to switch off and meditate or breath, we can start to think, I need to go to the shop. What do I need to get from the shop? I need to put dinner on because we're busy.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody said actually here, and this is actually quite nice. Well, while I disappear off screen to read the Instagram screen, feeling love over worry. I think that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and we'll never get rid of worry. There's no perfect. There is no perfect way of doing this. My invitation is for everyone listening or watching this is to just explore. Explore what makes you feel happy and safe and comforted, and knowing that worry is normally coming from a place of being in the emotional past or catastrophizing future mind space. And if you can bring yourself back into the present moment, for some of my clients, it's about they need an audio. They need to be able to go, right, I'm doing it. I'm there or I'm here. I'm here now, I'm back in the space. For others, it's a phrase or a word where as soon as they recognize that they're bringing up anxiety or worry about a situation, they will then do an affirmation. Okay, I am safe. I am present. And then taking just some time to do some of the practices that we build in for them.
I guess because yes, I mean this is I suppose this is well the cynic in me will say that worry is never going to go away. That worry is always there. I'm always going to have these financial burdens. I'm always going to have these career problems. I'm always going to have blah blah blah, whatever these things are. So is the theory then behind this by taking these simple little steps that you're not saying I'm not going to deal with my worry, but you're actually finding a better place where you can actually go have a small timeout and
Your
then perhaps
capability, yeah.
handle those worries a little bit better. So you can still make your plan to avoid the catastrophic future, but
Oh,
by doing it
yeah.
in
But
a
I think with a lot of it as well is that actually what you might then find is that the worry that you have might not actually be a realism worry. The worry might be that you are manifesting or creating some of that worry through the catastrophizing mindset of the future. And it might be that you've received an email from work and you read it and think, oh my God, I've done something really wrong. But it actually might be that the person writing it was doing so on the move whilst they were going to another meeting and they've just not topped and tailed it with the niceties. So sometimes we will see what we think we see, but it isn't reality. So a lot of this is about, well, the financial worries or the career worries that we have, they might not actually be real once we learn how to proactively cope and manage those feelings and emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Jennifer saying she loves the audio clap to bring you back to the present, which is true. And a lot of us probably do that, and we probably don't even notice. Because I know when my mind is actually wandering over 1,000 things or whatever it is, I will actually tap the desk and go, okay, get yourself together. Yeah. And you probably don't even notice that it is actually a little psychological tool to bring you back to that sort of concentration moment.
Back to concentration moment, and just the affirmation is a powerful way of being able to override the worry brain. So we have this kind of, we talk about a lot and the psychology space alone, but we talk about that inner chimp brain that will come out and kind of be like, wow, everything's going wrong. For us to be able to go, whoa, wait a minute, it's not, because I'm in charge. So we get to take that moment where we might do that audible clap, and then the affirmation of I am safe, or I am in charge, I am in control. We're then affirming to the brain, look, calm down. Like, we have got this. We always have had it. So nothing's changing. We've got it. We're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there we go. Is there anything else that we should sort of cover off on how we sort of do these? What's the potted message you'd like people to take home with them?
So I think the main takeaway from this would be, I hope that you have been open and listening to this to take away the parts that feel good for you. Stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit. If you are someone who's never dabbled inside the positive psychology space, please know that it's a powerful space to be invited inside, that you get to invite yourself in. Start with a gratitude, right? If this feels new and you think, I don't know how I'd feel about it, start with doing a daily gratitude and just see how much it changes your start to your day. Because we always have choice and we always have the control. But we tend to live either emotionally in the past or risk catastrophizing in the future. So my one biggest piece of advice is, if you can find your way of coming back to center, into the mindful moment of now, it really significantly helps your overall well-being, which is why the H on the end for health is always one of the big ones.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, if people want to find you, darling, where do they find you? Because I think this would really help an awful lot of people. Where do they find you?
They can find me. So I am mostly active across Instagram. So if you jump on Instagram, it is just at the.menopausecoach. And I spend 2 hours every day inside DMs chatting with whoever needs some support. So I will be there this afternoon.
Brilliant. Well done. Yes. So you're one of these nice organized people who compartmentalizes things into, I will spend this amount of time on that. I will spend this amount of time on it, as opposed to me who goes random, and then feels like I've done absolutely nothing.
Time blocking changed my life, Fiona, and it was something that I learned to do very early on in my corporate life. And I've just pulled it across into here. And it's something that I think when we're in charge of how our day is running, but I also surrender to the fact that sometimes it doesn't always go to plan.
Absolutely. Things don't always go to plan.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Look, thank you for that. I think it's lovely. You're also running, if people are interested, menopause coaching courses.
I am, yes. So we do a lot. So inside the Menopause Support Coach Academy, that's also on Instagram for those that want to check it out. We have our next intake happening in May. So the 4th of May, we start lessons. But yes, it's a 12-week certification where we qualify you to become a menopause support coach, fully CPD accredited as well.
Brilliant, because we certainly need more people in this helping space.
And we put a lot of the positive psychology into it. So it's one of the big qualities of how we educate and teach.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. For those who are watching on Instagram, this will hopefully save to Instagram. It's also going to be on the Facebook. It'll be sitting on the YouTube, and it'll also be sitting on the Twitter. So it's everywhere.
Super I love it.
Yes, exactly. And if people want to know when these are coming up, subscribe to the YouTube. I will speak to you soon, and take care. And again, thank you very much.
Amazing. Lovely to see you.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.